this video we're going to look at the new Skaven Warp Lightning Cannon. This is a combination kit that came out in plastic just a little while ago. Here's what it looks like, or at least what it looked like when I was finished with it. And to show you a bit of the assembly, so stage by stage, the first thing you do is assemble the cannon part itself. And basically you just stick the two sides in. These kind of are all one piece, and you got a couple of pegs that go across, and these platforms for the crew. Lots of great detail there. Very similar sort of look to the Plague Furnace and what's the other one? Screaming Bell. So similar look to it, and of course it fits together in the army. If you were to do the Plague Claw catapult, you'd have this piece here, and that's the slime that kind of goes in there, and that all these pieces hang below there. And then you have a couple different heads for the crew members. Otherwise, there's no spare bits. Okay, so there's what it looked like. I didn't glue everything together. I kept these two side panels separate and all these wheels. I glued the crew onto these bases, and this all is glued together, but not glued to the sides, and this front piece isn't glued. So the first thing I did is I spray painted it all. I used Krylon Boot Brown. It's just a light brown satin finish spray. Flat would have been nicer, but that's what I had. And then I found that with these types of things, the bolt gun is one of the hardest bits and takes forever to do. So I decided to do it first, so I could be a bit more messy with it. So I just painted all of the metal bits bolt gun metal. And you can see I got it everywhere basically. In hindsight, I might have been able to actually just spray paint it with bolt gun. I don't have a bolt gun spray, but that would have worked well as well. Then I painted up the dwarf bronze on all these bits here on the lightning cannon. I didn't do any bronze down on the rest of it. It was just on this part. Okay, so now what I'm working on is the wood. So this is the combination I'm using. This is a Reaper Triad, and so wood stain brown goes over everything. And so I just made sure I painted around all of the metal bits and tried to cover it up as thick as, or not as thick, as evenly as possible to get a nice good base coat. Then I gave it all a Devlin mud wash, so that wood stain brown isn't that dark. So I gave it Devlin mud wash, and that included all of the metal bits to give them a bit of a worn look. Okay, and for the crew, the rats that I do, Teleran flesh for all the skin type bits and their tails. And there's the front guy. Scab red for any red bits. Just the rest of my army has some red on their cloaks and whatnot, so I did a bit of that. And deneb stone for whiter areas of clothing and any of the wraps, any bandage type things that they have on them. And the whole model gets a Ogren flesh wash, so that blends nicely in the flesh there, and it works well on all of the other colors. So you can just kind of be sloppy and give the whole thing a wash. Next, what I'm doing is for the skin areas, I'm going to be using this rosy skin triad from Reaper, and just painting on all the flesh areas and working up. So the Teleran flesh with the Ogren wash is darker than this rosy shadow, so I'm painting that on everything except for the deepest crevices, and then working up higher. Before I went any further with this, I gave a bit of a stippling coat of rust brown to all of the metal areas, and just to give it a bit of rusty area before I highlight it. So you can see it just sort of here and there, just to give it a bit of an impression. Then I used chainmail and tried to go around as much of the edges as I could. So just to show like wear around the corners of things. I don't think I showed it, but I did give this a Devlin mud wash. You can see that sort of around in these deeper areas. And now what I'm doing is working up the highlights with burnished gold. So just any of the flat areas and edges on things, just trying to build those up a little bit with a kind of a dry brush, more of a overbrush kind of a working it in, make sure it's blended nicely. Okay, and so that's working up the highlights there on all of these wood bits. So that's that wood stained brown triad. Okay, so now for the Warpstone. I'm going to be using this peacock green, so that's my base coat. That's much like Orchide Shade from the foundation range. And then I'm going to be working up Brilliant Green, Viper Green, sort of higher up areas. And I'm also doing that in all these hoses in and around the workings here. Now, I like to do this tarnished sort of a look on all these bronze kind of things, like a patina finish. So what you can do if you're using GW paints is a mix of Dark Angels Green and Hawk Turquoise, and you just paint it in there. You water it down to sort of a milky consistency, and you paint it right in the cracks. I use the Reaper Deep Ocean, and then I did a Marine Teal in just after that was dry, just a smaller little bit in the edges there, just to get kind of even brighter. And I was quite happy with how that turned out, and I did it all in these here. So just carefully painted inside those with a watered down wash sort of with these. So I'm working up the greens here. So you can see that the darker areas are the deeper ones. And did the same here. I didn't have to be as careful, just kind of painting away from the edges with the lighter colors. And there, that's with the Viper Green. So you can see it's just mostly on the top areas. And I'm going to do this Moth Green, which is kind of like Scorpion Green for GW. This would be like Snot Green. This one here would be close to a Goblin Green maybe. And then that's Orchide Shade. So this Moth Green, just painting it on the sharpest parts where I can and trying to blend it in. And then I used a little bit of white just to get on the top bits. And then I did a Thraka Green wash. For the base there, I just used my typical coffee grinds, painted it all scorched brown and highlighted it Bistro brown, and added some tufts of static grass. I used that the Deep Ocean Triad there for the lenses on the Commander's scope, whatever that is. And I think that's about it. Not too many colors here. I mean, if you don't count the crew, there's basically wood, metal, like silver metal, bronze-ish, and then warpstone. So pretty straightforward, but looks pretty cool when it's all put together. And of course, this kit, you can change the configuration, so you could make this the top and the bottom down here. You could flip it around so this is the top and that's the bottom. That's one of the ways that you can make these all look different in your army. So if you had one or two of them, you could just change it up a little. I'm going to have to get another one of these so I can have a Plague Claw as well, but that'll have to wait. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this. There's the comparison there. Sorry, let's go back one. Comparison in size. So it's very similar size to the Doom Wheel. Same size base. That's just a regular Chariot base that we have here. And so very similar size. Obviously not as complicated a kit, but similar size. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Check back for more, or check my channel on miniwargaming.com for lots of other videos and the like. See you next time.